in the event that someone requested from another state information regarding these positions, we can still take this type of positive action and intend to if we carry out this resolution that was passed by the General Assembly last year. Now, this Ms. Fortwinger, I believe, has been, she was the one who made the inquiry and asked that this be considered or be done. And she has had a response of some kind all along. I mean, we've been communicating with her regarding this and have not just turned her off and left her hanging. Uh,
This may not be appropriate comment, but I'll do it anyway. That I think it would also be appropriate, perhaps as a second motion, to say that we support their efforts in resolving the problem, which was, this related to the resolution passed at the convention. I believe neither of these two girls saw themselves as having any part of the resolution being drawn up in the first place, and they did. And I felt as if they did not relate this to being support for them individually because they were not named nor was Jewish name.
And then convey this. Any further discussion? Yes, the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The motion carried.
In view of the committee's concern,
Are there any comments? I'm thinking, I'm sorry. Are there any comments regarding this recommendation?
Perhaps now, for the benefit of many here, you would like to explain what this would mean. I mean, like how a written statement that they would sign, something that they would discuss. What do what is the committee suggesting?
This kind of discussion came to the committee as a result of several things. In an economic security and general welfare program, there are successes and failures. And we believe that at least the officers of this association, if there is such a program, either needs to support both the failures and the successes, either by openly doing so, at least not to work against it, or rearrange the policies to meet what they could be as a program they could support. We find that various and sundry reports are come to us about whether or not there is support for the program as it is presently done in the association. Now, one of the things that I think is extremely bad is that the average nurse, too many of the nurses of the state look up on KMA presently only as economic security money, period. And the hate KMA clubs are primarily those composed of hate Nell Waller's economic security program. And it's perfectly all right, except that it does hurt the KMA as a whole. And we felt that there had to be some discussion on whether or not the program should be as it is, if not, change it so that it could be supported. Real down-to-earth discussion of the pros and cons of the program and some further delineation of policies and direction.
Okay, would this fit into our truth session, and could we, if you have other, perhaps, and could we bring that as a last, since we probably, that's what I had sitting here waiting, what were you trying to convey? And if I think it was what,
Then I'll pay
is that, can we wait till the last, do you all mind this? Let's sort of bring this in at the beginning start off our session after she's completed.
And the second part of this recommendation, that the resolution, and the resolution committee report will have a next report. Before specific activities, I'm going to start out with failures and successes. This was pertinent to the Mayfield incident.
That's not, that,
No,
I didn't think it was, but let's discuss this now in relation to, the economic security and general welfare's recommendation that we do, hold an election, call for an election, support these girls, and do it. Push them to really, at St. Joe's, see, they have organized,
no.
they have tried to organize.
We have set up informational meetings, and out of these groups, we thought there was an effective leadership. And we did finally get enough authorizations by this leadership to ask for an appeal. But all of a sudden, this whole thing just stopped.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And did you report this to the, you didn't report all of this to the economic security and general welfare? There's been additional information since they met?
Only the Mayfield one.
Oh, I see. Okay. Discussion.
Oh,
Yes.
good. I was gonna make a motion.
All right, go right ahead.
In lieu of the information received by various members to the KNA Board of Directors, I move that we do not seek an election at this time at St. Joe's Infirmary.
I might tell you that one of the reasons this needed to be talked about right now is that we believe that the National Labor Relations Board would consider an authorization of a 6-month-long money-bound authorization. And we're getting very close to the 6 months time limit on those authorizations. And this doesn't bother me a bit, because the nurses who did come into this office for meetings and this sort of thing were told that KNA had no further role in activating St. Joe nurses. They want anything further from us, let us know. Okay.
I have a question now that the motion has been made before we go. Was Sheridan brought in after K&A activities started? Were they asked to come? I don't understand. Well, when this intensive study and anti-organization began, were you picked? How did you get these gentlemen there for the last 7 months?
They were hired by Extendicare and sent to St. Joe's, along with the attorney. We've had an attorney and the John Sheridan Associates ever since the union
That's what I was
signed sufficient cards to incur a hearing by the NLRB. And they had their hearings, and during all the interim part of the hearings, they've been on premises.
The nursing thing has never even been a problem.
No, the
Concern to Sheridan, and
No.
the guy told me himself, and he already knew before he interviewed me that I was president of the district. I thought that was, I think my boss told me, I mean, I'm not sweating, but, they weren't really concerned about nursing. at that
Granted,
time.
this is what I didn't understand, how, this thing to, our authorizations were 6 months old, they've been there 7 months.
They didn't want nurses, they don't want nurses improved in the end.
Yes.
Not in that particular thing, and they weren't going to fight K&A, but, my husband, had a conversation with one of the extension lawyers, and apparently he was very upset about when it came in, the nurses, but the Sheridan Associates,
And he had to be upset because now Water Creek is up.
well, they were.
On the mailing list for a
Yeah,
witness for the union.
I heard about that, too. Someone died at Sheridan.
And I was asked to appear as a witness, I was not used. But I could correct Mr. Siegel's terminology of hospital personnel quite readily. And, the only funny thing that happened, I guess I felt sorry for the man, but it was funny too. I would pass Mr. Siegel little notes, and then he would come out with a pertinent question. The man finally said he felt like he'd been ganged up on and crucified by the audience passing up pertinent and damaging questions to their attorney. Well, I did feel sorry for him, that was what I was doing.
Well, I have to say that John Sheridan Associates are very effective. I went to all the meetings and got all of the gung-ho on how to fight unions, and I sat with and listened to all of the personnel, and really, they really knew their business. You really had to give them credit, and they were dynamic, and they knew just how, and they'd say, listen here, our administrator's named George Schmidt, and they'd say, listen here, George Schmidt, you're not doing the right thing by us, and they do all of this. They'd use these people in these real, it was effective. I can't explain it, but they really knew, I thought I knew a little bit about,
But you see
but I knew nothing.
But you see what they can do that this association never can. Well, that's not what they can do that we can't do. We cannot have a meeting on on-duty time paid for by the income of the place that's running the joint. The joint. We have to do it away from work and this whole thing.
Got to give their time after work.
And if you think that doesn't make a difference, that's right.
But they did plenty, the organizing group at St. Joe did plenty. They could do it you couldn't coerce in the cafeteria, and you couldn't coerce, they could do anything on their own time, and they really made it very clear that you couldn't, get involved, that if the union people wanted to try to lapel people and get union cards signed, that they could do it in the cafeteria, in the lunchroom, in
Their
the
coffee
restrooms,
breaks,
their coffee breaks.
before and after
This
work.
was all legitimate.
But, there was no ready-made meeting rooms for them, of course. That does make a difference.
They were in the parking lot, out on the street.
K&A would not believe at this time that we ever had any idea of doing any such thing as this kind of organizing. And if the nurses at an institution who wants to do so can do so, I don't believe K&A will ever use this type.
I'm not sure I understand why the Economic Security and General Welfare Committee still feels that this should be pursued. They have the information about the,
No, I don't think so.
They have not met since
Yeah,
they
yeah.
did. Jean, the one thing that would be an advantage to proceeding, the one thing that would be an advantage, is at this point, there is no one to challenge K&A, and it would be nobody or K&A. It's possible in the future that there could be no one K&A or our labor union. The only advantage is this, Jean, that there would be, the only split of votes would be nobody or K&A. And that's the sole advantage, the sole advantage. And while you have 145 or 50 authorization cards, the time limit's gonna run out. Now, we don't know that the National Labor Relations Board will take 2 years from now, but we don't believe we do. I don't think the nurses in St. Joseph, even this many are interested.
I was just gonna say, rather than NLRB being worried about, I'd be worried about the 145 people that signed 6 months ago.
Well,
It's time to go back and see these, again, you don't.
we have to look back and just be realistic about it. At that time, they were afraid that they were gonna get involved with the union, and they did not want this. They certainly preferred K&A to the union, and this motivated. Now they've been assured they will not be included, or pretty well assured, in the
Even by administration.
labor group. You see, so that, don't you think this was probably a great asset at that time?
There was 1 or 2 nurses who signed the union cards. union boy I thought was pretty clever, and I got him, I don't think I could blackmail, but I could, you know. He marked out the business service employees union and put down Kentucky Nurses Association. Sent it to me. But they just die if they do what happened to their car. Well, something, you know, sort of funny that gives you a grin has to happen to this person once in a while.
Well, do you think we've discussed this enough now to vote on the motion? All of those in favor, all of those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign.
St. Mary's and Elizabeth Hospital here in Louisville.
Resolution for the general membership at the annual meeting, recognizing that general membership does vote on that platform, and the platform adopted last year did have this element of support in it. But I don't know, I feel myself, and I didn't know she had this, just like this in here, even though it was brought up to the resolutions committee. I didn't realize she had it in this report until now also. But I feel also, not only that some of our members do not, but that some of our board members do not some of our programs and so forth. And I don't know what to say. I don't know quite how to, because we sit here in the board meeting and I just wonder if we couldn't just really, turn that darn thing on. Oh. Well, maybe we could go on all night. I don't know if you feel this is valuable or not. I think it's giving just a great deal of food for thought as well as me. So here again, we may have gone through this and there's no action. I believe that it will be to the various committee groups. Some of your thinking, not as an individual, but as a group, some of your thinking will be that's pertinent will be communicated. And I still am faced with my in the way I philosophically feel that until we have something better, then we have to support the efforts that, we're committed as a board to carry out to delegate this resolution. I don't know what we can do about that. If philosophically you can't buy it as a board member, I don't know. I have not, all of the things throughout this year, it's not always been something that I follow wholeheartedly, but I try to go on and support it, at least not speak against it. You know what I mean, outside of our group. I think this is the place right here to really speak against it, to really say what you feel and so forth, and it goes no further as far as committing you as a person. And maybe we ought to have a session like this every so often. But we still are committed to, as a democratic organization, to if you don't win your side, you've got to go with the majority and not fight the ones who are the majority. And I'm committed to it, and I haven't always agreed with all of you. Did you realize that? Even though I came and went ahead and though I'm not voting, I still was able to speak my piece and so forth. But I still have to support it, or I don't have to knock it to outside groups. And so I guess we all are committed to that. And this may help us and guide us in getting on a track that will be the best for the organization. I don't know. think 9 o'clock in the morning.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If we can take it before we adjourn. I'm not sure where we left off. I think we started out by saying that there was a request from the committee for reaffirmation by the board. Is this right?
Right, or by the, wanted a resolution before the general assembly.
By this board.
Oh,
by this board.
And then I'm sorry, I, Jean, maybe I,
I'm just wondering if this now is dropped and if there will be any further activity or what.
all right, then,
I have one remark I'd like to make before you go ahead. I would, assure this board, regardless of, what is being said by our own members or anyone else, there has not been a group activity in this association that has not been related to challenging nurses to find their problems, unrelated to pettiness and this kind of presentation, and it is 99% safe. I'm talking about killing them or letting them live, nursing practice. And I can assure you that it is called economic security, and I can assure you that this association, if it wanted to publicize and did not protect the agency, the profession, and the public, could sell newspapers this nation over on what I could tell you about standards of care and the absolute negligence of patient care in this state. This association has spent time and money on just this with groups of nurses throughout this state. Now, I did have to say, regardless of what we call it, regardless of the image it has created, regardless of economic security, K&A, or union, the activity of this association presently has been related to safe patient care.
any working in this office has to and I think we all include legal. Now, let's see this, the K&A Board of Directors consider support for the program by a reaffirmation of support. Do we want to do this at this time?
Well, actually, what I think I'm hearing is probably support, but, to de-emphasize this as top priority. This is what I'm hearing here, and look at other possibilities, in terms of fresh approaches, new approaches to.
But while you're looking, don't knock it.
No,
That's
we're
what
not.
we're saying.
Well,
Until it's changed, don't knock present. If you can't support it on the outside, don't knock
not that, yeah, I agree with you, I didn't.
it. That's what we're talking about.
All right, I understand, but I didn't realize we'd be off left and right.
No.
Yes,
Well, she's saying yes, you're saying no.
we are
Oh,
being
I thought you meant
knocked.
here.
Yes.
Oh, I thought.
All right, well, this long-term approach, long-term goal approach, it sounds like it might have some merit, along with the southern talk. So perhaps, rather than let it drop, it was good having discussions tonight, maybe, picking it up and seeing where it can go. This one idea that was, proposed tonight by several people. And,
And I'm hearing you
But that'll
say
cut off
that
the
the K&A
conversation.
Board of Directors support, reaffirm their support for the current program and encourage, study of various exploration of various approaches.
And immediately evaluate the program for restructuring the approach, or something of this sort. This is what you're really saying, isn't it?
formulate a committee to explore.
Well, the Economic Security and General Welfare Committee is already a committee that would be just right up their alley to go right on it and think in these terms, don't you think?
Professional practice.
And the Professional Practice Committee along
Does
with
the,
them.
Economic Security Committee have some feelings in regards to, their president or?
Nadine, the Economic Security and General Welfare Committee presently are so, involved with what can we do with these they have not they know that the whole program must have help. They are not able at this time to propose the kind of help.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay. They are
Lady,
concerned.
people call me at home till midnight at night if I'm at home, and they'll say, I've got to get you, this, that, and the other. You wouldn't believe.
I have an unlisted new number for that reason. You
Hell,
just
and to
cannot
have
leave
her
it 24 hours a
number.
day.
So that we are so swamped
In regard
with
to
these
the,
things.
help.
Yes, Nadine.
Oh, this is what I'm asking.
Yes, individual nurse.
And then you've
who
got to
says
take the
this.
time, set up a meeting, even though it's just me, I set up a meeting with them, I tell them how to approach the problem. This is economic security and general welfare, we're all involved and you see, and this is what happened. But we may need to do some special work along with the professional practice committee, see, to explore this
Well,
line.
before we leave this, I wanna ask, this is really a stupid question, and it's a sort of a personal, real feeling about this, when the public health nurses was raised, all involved. I mentioned one time at the district meeting, I didn't think District 13 did a thing for these people. And I think we made the same mistake with Mayfield. Now, some of us, when the girls came over, we got them and we talked to them, and some of them came over to my home and sought me out, and we talked, in the living room for a long time, and all I think I did was give them moral support, but Worthy, after all, we're right down there 22 miles, and what did we do? We didn't do anything. So I think that somewhere along the line here, I don't think we just knew what to do. Now, that really is ignorance.
I agree with that.
It's just ignorance. And I think that, we've got a good district, and we're active, and I don't know, I think everybody kind of waited, well, what do we do, or, some of us talked to them, we listened, but there wasn't any help.
But don't you think that it's this kind of brainstorming and conversation and admitted, I wouldn't really call it ignorance.
Should we have taken a real active role in this?
Nadine,
It's
it's
scary.
my belief that one of the things that happened down there was inadvertently, probably wrong. Yeah, it was inadvertently probably wrong. There was plans for, several people to attend the organizer meeting that would have been a detriment to, full exploration. And, they were asked not to, and I don't think the ears or reception was open after that.
Well, I didn't know that.
When you get together a group of nurses that are scared of their shadows, and immediately confront them with, well, I don't know whether there's any confidence in this meeting or not. This kind of a thing, and I think this was a very bad first beginning as far as district contact is concerned. First district, and I do have to get back to my own district, where there's been little or no activity, but a great deal of benefit, have never had an active program or an active committee, period. And I don't know what the role of the district is.
Well, some of us chatted about it, so it's kind of, that's like closing the door, it's all over.
I don't think it is. I think it's not too late to close the door. This might be a good time to have a good report, and I think Amy Kent could give it to you as a district. She's down there close, if she will give him his final
We had
report.
three from Mayfield there last night.
Well, I don't know, I thought it was rather hectic with this was going on, how you all feel about it, but I.
That one program
One
was built.
building there, District 5, done this in District 5.
Oh, this is
What
what
else
we
would
need.
it
Have you
be?
done this sometime with someone from the board, going around to all the districts?
Well, you say that you're available, Nadine, but you can't and Joe are welcome.
No, that's what I mean, but have we, you've got
Yes,
enough people,
yes.
you can get an invitation, is what I'm
Yes.
saying.
And, yes, we've done regional, and Blythe's been in District 4, she was in District 2.
And we know.
Yes. District 2 had a meeting on, well, they didn't mean to have minutes, they put to death. The right to negotiate last year, yes, there, you know,
These things happen. I believe that Louise is ready with the motion, which the chair will entertain at this time.
Ready.
I don't know if this says what I thought I heard, but maybe sharing it, you can correct it. But I move that K and A Board continue to support the economic security and general welfare program and establish a committee to explore alternative approaches to upgrade standards of nursing practice with other health concern groups as a long-term objective. Is that it?
Is there a second?
I second it.
Do you all have further discussion? Is that really what you were trying to get at?
What was the word, alternative?
K and A Board continue to support the economic security and general welfare program and establish a committee to explore alternative approaches to upgrade standards of nursing practice with other health concerned groups as a long-term objective.
You're not limiting it just to the administrators, assistants, physicians, or whatever,
And then
You all will never establish in this association in my lifetime a program that will be more traumatic to the association and or to the individuals in this office and or to the individuals who establish units. This was just a fact. I said this association in my lifetime will never have another program that will turn out to have been as traumatic to the association, to the K and A staff, and to the nurses who form units as this program has.
right. No, that's so true. All right, are you ready for the question then? All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. The motion carried. Now, the resolution committee prepares such a support, you will pass this to the resolution. It had gone to the department, right. Now, may we adjourn and pick up the
Present policy says 51% of members are in the process of becoming members. I'd like to see you all change that activity will not continue after the first informational meeting until there is two-thirds membership.
And another facet of this is that we found out that legally, for instance, the LPNs, we can give them counsel and guidance and so forth. Now, what would be a reasonable expectation for their contribution to our efforts if, in talking with the president of their association, if indeed this is the way the whole state wants to go and use our services, you see, we have not represented them in the past, we need some direction and what is a reasonable amount to expect them to contribute. We cannot spend the money to help them without it.
No, and we can't represent them.
No,
But
but
not be the bargaining agent, but we would work with them in a group effort.
Right.
And if it came down to really an agent speaking for them, we would have to speak on it for the bargaining group. This is not the case, for the law is not present. It could open a Pandora box. It could. But the problem is voting. Now, I'm hearing that
then if you do get people, joining when they get in the jam, and I know you do, the moment they're out of the jam, do they then withdraw their membership?
They're just exactly like every other nurse in this state. 2/3 of them don't join, just like 2/3 of them don't join this.
They use their, association, they really are, I understand. Somebody, girls went to the, I think we arranged like week before to go to their state convention. And, they shared with us some of the kinds of things. They really a little mixed up in hot things as we are too, but they're thinking, they certainly need some consultation, I believe, that they need some help.
Well, some of you people at district level, for example, Charlotte, I know District Two is doing a study on finding out reasons why people didn't join and talk about that. Has there been any, information, any data that might, throw some light on this, or have they gotten all their data or whatever?
The questionnaires that come in, I expect to have them, they're gonna have to hand analyze them. I mean, they're gonna set up a computer, we didn't have computer services anyway. So,
Did
it's going
anything
to
show?
take them till the end of, I think, July to get that all analyzed.
You haven't had any feedback in terms of what's showing?
No, they have them compiled, they haven't compiled any of that information to the point where we can use it. Because some of it's open-ended to get, bring out reactions, which would give us clues for a second questionnaire if we want to send it out. We thought that was the only way we could really get reactions from people.
Well, what about other districts? Have they done, what about your district, Kathy?
No, not to share that. We mailed out letters to every nurse in our district. We got very few replies back, and we didn't really do it scientifically or whatever, it was just kind of trying to have everyone that we tried talking to on a one-to-one basis, they used money as an excuse. But
Do you have an answer to that, maybe?
About the money? Well, that's why, when you came out with the colleague idea, we voted for it. We've not had one member that I know about for the $20. So, and we've even tried, the hospital, ARH there has the majority of the nurses. They've tried like taking it out of their paycheck over a 3-month period. They've done everything they possibly could, to alleviate the money problem. So I really don't feel like it's the money. I don't think they really think about why they don't belong. They have a job, they draw their paycheck just like everybody else, and that's about as far as they think about it.
I think they feel the need to join.
I don't think
A lot of them think that if they can't go to the meetings, they can't, they just don't belong. They don't see that, knowing.
Well, ours don't want to go to the meetings, even when we try to get them.
Well, that's true too, but some of them express this,
I try to
Go
get
to work at 7, get off at 3, and get paid on Friday.
And that's
And,
all they care.
11 to 7 nurses always get back in time.
I think it's back in our report, just need to
On
get
the
out
job,
of it.
you arrange it.
I tried to school go last year, one went.
If we who are in the profession put no status on membership, no recognition, no importance, and the non-member gets the same benefits financially wise and recognition wise, it's pretty sad, isn't it?
Well, the continuing I still think, I don't know, I may be dead wrong on this, but I think that if we had stimulating clinical programs, not general, but clinical programs, that these people would drag out, because if they're interested in something, they'll come, on light duty or whatever. But we don't have, when you peruse even our convention schedule this year, and I missed that, I shouldn't complain all the time, jumping into the neuroscientific groups and the neurological groups and the GYN groups. And we're still trying to appeal to everybody with our broad programs and it really attracts very few or nobody.
Well, that clinical
you
program
have
there
one
was a specialized one, and
Maybe,
practically nobody came.
that
We,
was on drugs, wasn't it?
no, it was on genetics, maternity,
Yeah, well,
family plan. We at UK, you maybe don't know this, but I imagine you do, at UK, we had a workshop in May plan on one of the subjects that was listed on that sheet yesterday as a need.
Yes.
We had one. It was canceled because there was no applicants.
Again,
So now, is continuing education the reason? Is this the thing? There are programs
If
there
it's,
people
but if
don't
it's
know.
tied to something,
Yeah,
though,
Tied to your
if we
life.
say that, I mean, I see continuing
Tied to
education
your
being our
license.
salvation one
And I've
day.
been told I was crazy.
If it's
Still think that
required
way we're
for
getting.
licensure, and K and A
now,
is gonna be
if
sitting.
it's tied to something,
it's got to be tied.
Now, we tried, when I took office last year, I was convinced that, clinical sessions, that's what everybody wanted. Well,
they don't do it.
I think attendance at meetings has picked up, but not to the point where I'd be happy about it. The greatest turnout that we had all year long, we had to bring chairs in, was a discussion called Bridging the Gap Between Nursing Service and Nursing Education, and people came out and thought. So now I'm thinking, and it was great, it was really helpful. I'm thinking that the only way we're gonna get in there is by, trying to stimulate some controversy, and people will come and bend what they think, But I was.
Your
really
TB workshop, how many came, Kathy?
The one we had in the district, about 50.
Okay.
I think I agree with Kathy, our biggest group has been when we, had the panel on the pros and cons of being members. So I think controversy does have. Yeah, but you can only do this just so long, you're gonna run out of controversial issue.
KPLPN,
we're running a workshop for LPNs in the fall, and my eyes were open.
They're coming.
Because
They come in droves.
they said they're coming at least 100, we were thinking about 30 or 40.
You better believe
Okay,
they
but
do.
you know why? Because we have to register with National, and National will decide how many points they get for the workshop, which we had no,
Yes.
knowledge of.
Yes.
Now, they don't have the point system yet, but they're ready for it when it comes, and their own members are going to be, benefit from this because they've got their points registered and ready. Some of them have 40 and 50 points already, they were telling me. What would happen if Kentucky jumped the gun on this and went ahead and started allocating point system and started compiling for the members and members only? Because you don't keep records on anybody else. Here, what would happen? Now you can say, well, that's not the way, to get people interested, but I think after reading this thing on Canada, I'm convinced that you get people in, and then you convince them that they're in, that they've got a benefit from being in.
Charlotte, even attendance at district meetings could be weighted by points. The district keep their accumulation of points.
Certainly,
if
they're a member.
If they're a member of this association, that all those programs take good registrations, weight the meetings, and inform its membership of who received the points and what the accumulations, and even transmit this to employers.
And the other thing, last convention, there was all this, concern about relicensure, hinging on whether or not someone has, taken continuing education programs, which is the trend, whether we like it or not, in the country and other professions as well as this. And I think people reacted violently last year, and of course, to placate them, we went along with, oh, no, it's not threatening, it's non-threatening, we won't coerce anybody. But I'm beginning to wonder, we've lost 500, and it seems to me that we're gonna hang on to a core dedicated, committed group. And that if this method of, to get your license renewed, you've got a responsibility of keeping up to date through the association, ed programs or whatever, that this will weed out what's left. I don't think we'll lose too much more. I think we can be obtained, and licensure is the only way you're gonna get a renewal of your license. If you've been out of practice for 20 years and you just renew the card every year to maintain licensure, and that's all you need to do to be a nurse. And I think to protect the public, we can build in the damage to the public with the the changes in theory and practice. I think we can build in something here that will sort out the sheep from the goats.
Well, if it's hinged to re-licensure, then that requires a change in the law.
Okay, well, maybe
We're not sure of that.
We're not sure
But
about
you
it.
don't have to wait for that. I mean, you can go ahead and do
Louis,
it just like the LPNs are doing it. I mean, how many points accumulated here and.
Gene, we
and
believe that the board could possibly do this as a board policy.
The
without
KBNENR board,
Yeah,
not this
the
board.
board of
no.
nursing can do
Yes,
so.
KBNENR.
Louise, the resolutions committee have been requested a ruling, for this board to reintroduce the original motion.
Yeah, because I think, it's time we sorted out the sheep. We've got some people in nursing today who could care less about what goes on with nursing, who sit home and every year renew that license and forget about what goes on throughout the year. They could care less, about improving the practice or the care of the patient.
They go to work many of them.
All right, many of them go to work too, but I mean, I think it's high time that, you're either committed or you're not. You're either professional or you're not. And there are some responsibilities that go with being professional besides saying the words.
I think so.
Martha, I think it's time we quit discussing and get to work on it.
I do too.
I have good nurses in my hospital who,
Did you tell them?
I said that with the report was on.
Yes. And if this organization doesn't do it, some other one will. And I keep thinking, whenever I have to defend, why is it that the league prepares the licensure examination, I feel uncomfortable because every other discipline is licensed by its professional organization. I mean, the license is.
The exam does belong to the American Nurses Association.
It does.
Yes, ma'am, it does. It is a computer contract service with the league
Yeah.
for the exams. The members of the association go and do the preliminary studying and everything else.
Some other organization in Kentucky might move ahead and decide to set up a criteria for
I
point
certainly
system.
have.
I think we better move.
I do too, I think we ought to get to work on it.
Would you all be prepared to better defend such a resolution at convention this year? Instead of letting the mishmashes don't hurt anybody's feelings, don't do anything to anybody, let's offer them and then do it.
And you know what else I think, not only did people not come and defend the resolution, but, we tried to make that thing as, bland as we could. We didn't want it to be offensive. And there were words in there like, try to determine whether there's a need for possibly doing something, And it was too nice.
The way to get a resolution through that's controversial is to make it as rough as you can because you get the two extremes voting for it and that'll pass it. That's how they got that abortion law through New York, The middle of the road didn't vote for it.
I think the other thing is get the word out about the resolutions and this sort of thing. Either face it or not face it. I think the time has come where we face it or not face it. Do it or don't do it. Just don't talk.
And I think.
I think so too, I think we're through.
Encouraging districts to, like last year, we discussed all the resolutions in our district meeting before. Oh gosh, it was terrible. It was so hot, I couldn't understand it. But the people came out and they came to the convention.
They really
to see what's
did.
going on.
That's one of those early
But why
meetings.
can't other districts do that? Why, well, for one thing, if I hadn't been on the committee, I would never have had the resolutions in my hand.
That's the reason that we now have gone to earlier meetings, Kathy.
Try to get them out.
Supposedly they will be in the
But
newsletter in
if the
September.
district presidents knew that they would get them in time, say for their October meeting, or September meeting, it might make them feel like.
some of you would do.
Well, I was thinking, we at least have to provide them
Oh, I do
with
too.
It might mean that compulsory education extends into the adult years, I think. It's unfortunate, but, this is what it almost seems to boil down to.
Well, it might be if it were introduced as a resolution making it compulsory, that what would come out of it would be a revision, not making it compulsory, but rewarding by
Yes,
points or something.
yes.
I think that's
Recognition.
that's what I thought Charlotte was going to say, make it as rough as you can, so that when it's revised, there will
There
still
is
be
an element of
some.
compromise that will
Because
lead it to be a good
If you,
resolution.
yeah, if you start out with something that's too nice and too bland, then when it gets revised, there's nothing.
Nothing to it.
And keeping in mind, and this doesn't mean hypocritical or in any sense of the word, but it's in terms of the best interest of nursing practice in the state that this is done. I mean, concomitantly, sure, it may increase membership and whatnot, but I think ultimately what we're proposing would improve nursing practice by keeping some of these people up to date, and especially some of these people who function on influential interdisciplinary groups, or who are being capped by other disciplines as representative of nursing.
Whether or not it improved their practice, they would have to have some exposure. Okay.
Okay.
But I think it's essential that it be kept to the organization members, because there's only one professional organization.
Okay.
And so I think it should be for the KNA members and only for KNA members when it comes from this board. Now, if KBNER comes up with something, I don't know what that will be. But that would be the only way in which membership would be improved, I think.
If the continuing education plan to have this association sponsor a statewide plan and this sort of thing went through, this could easily be tied to membership in this manner.
Yes.
Well, crazy if we don't.
Right.
We've been crazy a long time this year.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
well,
state
we-
offices are all done.
Most of us have, yeah.
Well, we're still back though to, you see, this is not, in balancing the budget, is not my lone responsibility, it's not Nell's lone responsibility, it's this board's really. They've entrusted it to the board, not to an individual. So we've got to do something.
Well, as Charlotte mentioned a minute ago about this point system that you can institute, although you don't have official sanction at this particular time. I wonder how long it would take to, orient members to something like this, and that points will be given, and who sets up the criteria for evaluation of point, not evaluation, but the, how many points per program or whatever. Could this be initiated as a, long-term plan or even a short-term plan?
Beginning at the convention in October, if somebody could work on it.
You see,
And then the other thing, this doesn't go to your question.
Should be worked on before and presented.
Well, with the overwhelming failure of Canal, maybe they'll withdraw this after this group, some people criticize.
Yeah, the board has made no further direction on that its efforts be continued, and the 6 months is not quite up for final evaluation, but I would assume that unless you give us further direction, that there will be no more meetings or anything on tonight. Occasionally, we have an inquiry, and we check their credentials, and if they meet the criteria of the Connect policies do give further direction, there will be no more, mailings or any more publicity or anything of sort, because, what we did originally has had no response. In fact, we had like $12.19 either paying for the printing and the postage. On the breakdown of miscellaneous income, there's only one thing that's more interesting on there. You will see Mr. Mansfield for handling, it's not the Yonker suit, it's for handling the Yonker controversy. And, we did settle out of court with Mr. Yonker for $600, and Mr. Mansfield's fee for the $600 was $200. Both of the $300 checks from Yonker did clear the bank. So we did come up with $400 that we had the roads cleaned and that sort of thing. That's 100% better than we ever thought we'd get. I guarantee you. Sue worked pretty desperately on this, is one of the people who did this, and $400 to the association was not what we should have had, but it's better than I thought we would get. We do have a problem with the cleaning lady. I just shudder every time I think about it. Once a year, we have to fill out, she has a grandchild, needs to dependent children or something. And we have to fill out the fact that she is still working and earn $8. And every time we fill out one, she loses about $4 a month off of that age dependent children's check. And one of these days she's going to say to us, I lose for half of what I'm working for, why should I work? I feel so bad about it every time, I just don't know what to do. To think that she does work one day and is penalized for doing so.
Maybe we should change this.
Yes. Well, do you know what we really do?
No.
We do pay her $1 for lunch, and many times it's not deserving. And that does give her $9 a day plus coffee. But if we reported $9 to the welfare department, she'd get $5 instead of $4. That system is wrong, and, she's been working this $8 now for 43 and a half or 4 years that we've been out here practically. And she's not the best in the world, but she's pretty dependable. And, I keep thinking, well, we ought to give her $8.50, and I think, no, I can't penalize her.
Well, and no kidding, you can go with her and buy her groceries and hand them to her. Well, she can accept a gift of groceries and all, but she cannot accept money. She can't work for money without stepping. But you can hand them,
One of the nice things that we do,
This
$8 a week does put her in the Social Security quarterly, maximum and minimum, and she is being, adequately covered and has already had enough quarters in now to be fully covered when she does get to that age. So, that's a plus for her, and we do pay this about $30. Well, many times she likes $10 or $8 a day to run for her food stamps. I know that's exactly what she does. I spend all the food every day. The economic security expense, I think you need to talk about it, goes on that last page again, it's primarily attorney fees. Travel and attorney fees is really all it really is. And most of it is attorney fees.
Well, if we pass that resolution that 2/3 must join before they, get contemplated action, support from the KNA, that might increase the funds slightly or whatever in a way.
I think, you would need to say, Louise, after the first informational organizational meeting before KMA would continue, they would initial meeting, and I think that's, I'd like to see it done, I think it would worth its weight in gold.
That might bolster this, because, you know, I think this is another draw card, you know, say we emphasize or whatever, but I think with what we've been hearing, this board in the past 2 years that I've been on it, or the past year and a half, this is grossly unfair in any supervisory industrial relations, any other, any circles, administrative circles, especially administrators would know this, grossly unjust, wouldn't carry weight in any professional, or non-professional one, for that matter. I think that we've got a rash of them that have been steadily increasing through the years, which should tell us something, and we're not alone with this. I think other disciplines and other professions in society are experiencing a similar, rash, if you will. If you just read the papers, you see this in other areas. So, I just want just practices, and, if this activity is necessary, and call it plugging the dike or the dam or whatever, we can work for long-term goals at the same time, but I don't think we should drop this effort, because I think today it's them, tomorrow it may be you. And, I don't think any of us are immune, especially with what's going on when one reads the papers, the journals, the magazines, in society today. You just can't be that blind to not recognize the fact that these are not decreasing, they seem to be increasing. So, two-thirds, do you need a motion or something?
Your present policy says 51%, Louise, and I'd like to see it 2/3.
And that was the board policy.
I move that 2/3 majority membership in KNA be required after that first information, initial meeting. Pertaining to economic security, our group activity. I did tell the St. Mary's and Elizabeth group in no uncertain terms at their next meeting, people who their representatives have to give some evidence of the.
Could I have a second to that motion? Second. Before we discuss it. Well, we just felt, Nell talked with me about this, and I just felt, well, I'd just go ahead even before, I brought it to you. Sometimes these decisions have to be made, and I decided, well, we present it to them and, see what their reaction, would be. And of course, this was not an issue, not a controversial thing.
When they were told this at their general meeting, 25 of them took applications.
They just,
They haven't paid yet.
no,
They took the application, no question about it, there's no controversy, no nothing.
so if they decide to go on and, then they assume that they have to do this already.
And
This
then
particular year.
the other thing that I think might be helpful in terms of budget, since we're in this squeeze again this year, is perhaps evaluating cost, and then if this increase in membership doesn't balance, or if we're running way over in terms of cost of service, we may have to look for maybe a higher membership, or some other means of supporting this, program. Within the association, hopefully, I don't know. But, this might help considerably, the 2/3, and you said the membership applications were not okay. But, in 6 months' time or a year's time, you should take a look and evaluate, how much it's costing, and what are other ways of supporting it if we're not getting, without going, into a budget, some kind of financial. That's a long range thing. What we're saying right now about 100%, 2/3 and after the initial meeting. But what I think, yeah, I know, I remember now, thanks for reminding me, but I think this is a sad indictment when the leaders in nursing service cannot be stimulated to, you know, to even improve their, you know, to even have continuing education programs for their own, groups. Why this whole section, who are the key people in nursing service?
I see this as part of fighting KNA's economic security program.
And it's more prestigious to belong to an organization sponsored by KU.
Why?
Think that, you know?
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you why, because the hospital will pay for it.
Okay.
The hospital administrators are behind it, and they all show up with smiling faces at their meetings.
Okay, that's it.
All right, but if we set up point systems and get this group also, Nadine, you were out when I was raising the question, and I think it's a sad indictment. That the director of nursing group, you know, director of nursing section had to be dissolved when these are the leaders in nursing practice. And they have, really gone over towards the KHA continuing education. And I think if we're talking about point system, we should certainly include points for this group within the nursing association. And I don't know how much clout this will carry in terms of, well, the administrators hire them anyhow, they can draw a point system. But nevertheless, to be worthy of the title of professional, it should belong to the professional organization. And I think we ought to think in terms of refusing people admittance into this organization. Sounds awful now.
Well, I don't.
I think, you know, depending upon whether or not they meet certain criteria in terms of qualification. If they, well, I don't know.
I'll agree with Louise fully, and I think it's gonna have to be tied to membership, because if it's not, and the directors can still go on with, hospital, KHA, okay, we haven't gained a thing.
Well, now,
They've
you
got their
didn't
points by
lose
going through.
membership per se, as far as
No.
paying dues now.
I'm not
Did-
sure about that.
Not yet.
We might
Not
be
yet,
better off
we
to have them
haven't,
out.
but at this point system.
It would be my belief that NSA membership is down, and this is one of the
Well, it may be, I don't know, I didn't
Yeah, I believe
realize
it.
it was.
And
I believe
the
that.
same thing that's happening with all the clinical groups that are popping off, the ACOG and that. You know, it's more prestigious because they're hooked up with the doctors and they have doctors' lectures, and doctors are paying for it, and they have something to offer, and it's cheaper. Now, I know we're losing members to that sort of
Yes,
thing.
yes.
There's no question about it.
Well, there's one thing too that I think we tend to overlook, and when you're trying to get people off to meetings, and this is one thing I think total KNA overlooks. You know, when you center clinically on trying to get someone to a meeting, say, well, you have about, say, 8 nurses that are in an intensive clinical area, and you want them to go to KNA general meetings, and you want them to go through on their job, increasing their knowledge type thing, you know. And it just makes sense to me to send them to an area where they're going to learn more about their job than to go to the workshop on genetics, you know. Now, that's, we had 3, I think, from our own staff that went to Owensboro. It was a wonderful, and we took the ones that were working in maternal and child health. Okay, now, I was talking to my supervisor in CCU, and she said, Mr. Ernest, I would just love to go to that, but she says now in July and August, the Cardiology Society meets in Nashville. So, she said, I just think that that's where I'm going to get more knowledge about my job, what I'm doing up here. And I have to agree with you than going to something on genetics. So I think that you have to take in consideration, and that's why these people are scattering off. If I
Nadine,
get
why would the directors go to a meeting called by KHA rather than to a meeting called by you as chairman of the conference group?
I think it's because the hospital administrators, they get all this information, you know, and they want to support so they pay, I don't know how many paid the dues.
Don't you think?
But my administrator, when he got that out the Kentucky Society, you know what he said? I was really surprised at his reaction. He said, is this a duplication of what you're already involved in? Says that's gonna make too many meetings for you. He could really care less himself if I joined that.
But it is true that the directors did respond to KHA.
Oh, yes,
When they
yes.
had not responded to
That's
the
true.
directors'
Yes,
conference
yeah.
group.
And I
And
said,
it wasn't because this association was not willing to offer.
no, they did, and I don't know, why, really, unless it's because of, and I said, well, I've said to him, well, my association, KNA will come first, number one. But I joined, and the reason I joined it is because hopefully it'll be centered on nursing management.
Well, no, wait a second.
Core.
I,
And I was not able to get this across when I was chairman of the directors group. I resigned from it, and I'm not going in anything that I can't,
But if you didn't, if you would not have resigned had there been response from the
Yeah, there was
directors.
no response. You remember, we came up here and we just couldn't get here. And I didn't even go to that first society's directors meeting because I couldn't. And I don't think there was too many there.
More than we had,
For what Miss Marmion said.
but more than what we had.
How many directors was invited to this?
I don't know.
I never got a notice on anything concerning the directors'
Well, you
conference
see, it
group.
went to the administrator, but
No, KNA's efforts over the past 4 years,
I'm talking about the,
was
KJ.
sent to our membership.
Well, I'm talking about KNA.
I'm talking about KNA, it was done in our membership mailings, just like any other program.
Oh, yeah, we had.
But I
we
don't
had
remember,
the
I
whole
don't
bit.
remember.
Well,
See,
Anything
all
on
the
it?
NSA people got them.
can't say that
Well, I knew back when it was first organized that she was,
there isn't any interest because
but I
I
can't
remember.
remember.
no,
Go ahead.
we had, I even asked for a meeting, last year at the
During the
convention.
convention.
I appealed from to the body, from the mic, asked that all the directors nursing meet, we wanna talk about this, and I had 6 there.
Okay.
All right, well, the question, there must be a need because at UK in the continuing education series, there was a workshop for directors of nursing which was very well attended. And they were very interested and enthusiastic. Now, this is some years back. And I was just wondering, the question of meeting and continuing education, is there a difference here in terms of, do I come to organize or?
All right, do you need this reread?
No.
All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign, clear that out. Well, we haven't, I still feel, that as far as just today and so forth, that we really haven't, come up with anything how we can do right this minute, this day and time. Naturally, I can see that the staff just works every way they can, cutting corners. Given their time and efforts and so forth, seems to be uppermost in mind is to possibly cut another $10 off here and there. They've taken the major
when you see 11 years ahead, where you'd be all right, it would be,
Maybe,
a burden you couldn't pay.
I love this building, of course, I have one of this, I think it's tremendous we have it, and yet, as we don't know the economy of the country in the next 5 or 10 years, but goodness gracious, it sure is bleeding us, isn't it?
Nadine, the only thing that you can say about it all is that, long range, it will be financially, fine.
Yes,
Because of the
the
extreme
land,
burden.
the word is, it's valuable property.
It's an extreme burden presently,
But-
not only from money, but from personnel.
Yeah, and we've
Point
got
of
to
view,
see it
staff
through some way.
personnel.
I think we need to see it through some way, but you look what you're paying out here, and utilities, tax, and insurance, and that $1,200 would go well toward continuing education, for instance.
Well, and we did talk with, this was, in talking with the, auditor and so forth, he gave us a little, we had pertinent questions and all in relation to, he told us where we were going and how we were going to have to be careful or it would not stretch even if we continued our projected income. And we did not, you see, so we're in worse shape than he predicted we could be, even if we watched our P's and Q's. We were warned of this, and we have been very cognizant of it, and taking this into consideration in almost everything we do. But, and we talked of how we could bring ourselves out of another crisis without penalizing, say, a board. We was very disturbed that we had penalized just a few members to serve the majority in finances when they've given their time, their efforts, and so forth to meet and try to carry on the work of members that the members have directed them to do. And so forth, without it being then just an impossible, financial burden also. But we talked to him about a second mortgage on the building and that type thing, which would be the best way for us to go. If we get down to the last dime and to meet salaries and pay the rent on the building, or the payment on the building and so forth, his suggestion was that we certainly could just take an outright loan, but not second mortgage on the building. However, he did point out that we would, with the second mortgage, we'd be paying a horrible percentage
What's our interest
of
rate?
interest. Our interest rate now, we got this building at a time when we had about 6.5%, which at that particular time was prime. Now we'd be going all the way up to 9% as a prime rate. And then with a second mortgage, you cannot get the type of interest rates that you get on your first mortgage, you see, so that it might run us 12% a year
Well, I think,
as a compounded thing.
and economizing, that should be a very nice resource.
Right, but we had to ask him no, so that we could at least
Have an alternate.
have an alternate plan. And what we hope to come up with is some method that we would not have to borrow. You can't always just spend till the last dime is gone though, and then start looking, because then you aren't in a good position with the bank to borrow at that point, you see?
You also have employees that have to look, whether they're gonna have a
Well,
job in
right,
September.
right.
Do you think that the general membership, even the ones that belong, do you think that they know of this plight?
Do the board of directors know of this plan?
The nurse, you know how when AMA was in such dire straits and how they rallied to the cause and they gave funds, help. Now, do you think to appeal to the general membership and to the non-members or word of mouth that we're in dire straits, don't you think that
No,
people in a crisis
And
help?
they won't listen if you do.
I
And
do.
well, let me tell you, last last year, we tried to tell them with the dues increase, in preparation for the dues increase. We tried our best to tell them. We began to get letters in here, you mismanaged funds. And yes, I heard it at the convention, they would corner me, members of how so-and-so mismanaged funds.
Cut Ms. Weller's salary 50%, we wouldn't be in any financial
And we
difficulties.
did, you know, here we had been cutting and cutting and cutting.
Effie, part of it is what Mark said yesterday, I think that KNA is hurting for the reaction of membership to ANA's plight and mismanagement, really. I've heard so much of this from membership.
Oh, other states are just saying that.
Well, it's the same old thing, you know, you hate the federal taxes, but the only way you can get back is at school taxes and local taxes. You go down, you fight your local people, because this is where you can get hurt.
Oh, yes.
You know, you're really angry about the federal, but this is where you can get back at somebody and get hurt. And this is what's going on now, I think. The state is feeling the brunt for the national.
Right.
And so if the state does the same thing, I think you'll lose 50%
Oh,
of
I do
membership.
too.
I've got threats of resignation on my own board.
But
I can tell
then,
you names of people that aren't gonna be members next year unless something drastic is done. I think that the thing is to take the positive approach and be aggressive about it. Say, we have something to offer you, you need us. Not we need you, you need us. Without us, you're lost. And that's the only way to do it.
All right, and that's back to the point system for your licensure.
You
And I think
I think
that,
in any other way.
believe that it should be tied in. I really thought about this, and I just see it tied in
got to
some
be,
way.
it's got to be.
I don't know how. Or, spread the payments out. I think some of my nurses
That's the-
say,
you
okay,
either.
why can't we pay 12 months out of the year to belong to our association? We pay everything else in society, they say. It's done on this basis.
Could you make
So,
an
well,
arrangement
that
for
might
credit
be
cards
something.
some way?
Yeah.
Credit card, my back there, I got the master card. Any way you can do this. Because everybody's got credit cards.
Oh, we don't need
I
it.
think that if we had
I
this
don't
on
use them.
a 6-month basis, we'd have members flow. Or year. If we paid something every month.
We have that doesn't work either.
But
We have this
where
that
can we
doesn't
go,
hurt.
the association,
No,
what we
it's
can
working.
do?
We've had it Bank of
This is
America.
what we've talked about.
We've had it ever since.
Some of my
I've been at the
loyal
hospital,
members
doesn't
have
hurt.
talked about this, and I said,
let me tell you how they did it. For instance, in Colorado, when I sought employment in the state of Colorado, the institution handed me at the same time, they handed me an agreement to sign that they were to deduct so much out of my paycheck. They paid it. I immediately became a member. And then it was if I also, within that contractual agreement, they would take if I quit before the time, then they would take the remainder out of my last check, my final payment, which of course your final payment usually is, more than the amount, and so forth. Well, this was a condition that they presented to me at employment and handed me the application to belong to the Colorado Nurses Association. It was done, you see. Now, this is the type of thing that would be this is ideal. This gives you an opportunity over a 6-month period, I believe that was, to pay your dues to the Nurses Association. And it was a very small amount. I never knew that when my paycheck came, that everything was taken out. I didn't know I had paid my dues. And yet I was a member. Now, the association, though, cannot run. It cannot operate on this road. Now, if you have the...
I think a working committee or whatever you want to call it.
You
This
went
board-
home, for instance, from this board meeting, says committee's been appointed to set up
That's right.
a recognition point system
That's
for
right.
membership and attendance at meetings.
I think
That's
you picked
right.
some numbers right now.
I think so too, because then we could go back and tell our nurses that this is
I
what's
said,
happening.
Well, and we
I
have
see.
some,
That's right.
you know, that have been, some attempts, we have some.
I could get some if we had something concrete
Right. And
to
so
go
forth.
on.
And that we could, pattern after and draw from and modify. The chair will entertain such a motion.
I make a motion, Madam President, that a committee be set up for the planning and presenting of a point system for nursing immediately. Now, that's not exactly the way I want to say it, but,
Right,
excuse me. Appointed immediately. Not immediately in the right place, forthwith and in haste.
And you know, what would happen, I'm just brainstorming right now, if we would come out with a plan for, say, next year, in October, about, continuing education programs at state level, to be offered at various parts of the
Louise, that meeting you didn't come yesterday, that's one of the things they talked about. This takes a great deal of planning and money.
I know.
And,
But you know, it doesn't take an insuperable amount of planning or money, because we've got a lot of talent throughout the state that we could tap. And, for example, we have several universities throughout the state, and many of these people would volunteer one time, I think, to approach them and explain the dilemma or the problems we have, not the problem, the dilemma we're in financially, to help us out. I think there are resources that are already prepared, but need coordinated in various parts. And sure, it's gonna take planning, and it takes longer planning when you meet less frequently, and longer interval planning. But you know, pardon?
Here again, we tie this in with money. See, and you made the statement that we don't know our financial, of course, we should have a membership.
I'm not talking about membership, I'm talking about speakers that might come in and participate in the program.
Yes, you know what else I think is, help, like, when TB&RD Association had their statewide meeting, we co-sponsored it with them. Now, that was good for KNA, but it didn't cost us one cent. We did the same thing in the district. All they want is a mailing list to mail to the people, and you get some credit for it. The same thing happened, at the local level here. We, Nelamas were kind enough to run off the envelopes for the Cancer Society. And KNA got, or District 1 got joint credit for the program, and the Cancer Society put in the whole bill, lunch and everything. And that, you know, all they want is access to people. They did, the TB&RD people
I
did.
believe, if you all recall, in the last board meeting, that this board right here, voted down a proposal that I recommended and had brought to me, so that they would pay for every bit of it. And we could run it any way we wanted, we could set up the details, for this continuing education. And it was voted down by this board. Now, if you all recall, the TB Association, they made a special trip to Paducah to talk with me about it. I presented it immediately to the board, and I had to call this woman myself. Now, you all didn't have to call her. I had to call her and tell her that it was turned down and that we would do it on our own.
yes, ma'am.
Because this is what the board told me to do. And this is what I'm talking about when I say, but I supported you, I had to. I did not believe it, I still don't believe it, I think we were wrong. But it happened right here at this table with me sitting in the same spot.
You know, Kentucky Heart Association is having something in Louisville, and there were some nurses on that brochure I received yesterday or whenever. And, I was just wondering, there are some private, there's some, public and private agencies around that would collaborate with, I don't think.
Well,
that's
the
far
TV
out.
wanted to.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be in our name. They'd send out they
They
said,
do all
we've
the
got
work."
the money, we wanna reach the people. Now, this is what I conveyed to you all, hoped I was. And then we also, the Hospital Association have come to, have approached you and me about various, why don't we'll help you co-sponsor something, we are interested.
They have a hospital association?
They do it all the time, as, now individuals in the Hospital Association, not the organization per se, but individuals,
What is our reason for turning on that other recruiting?
The reason was, we want to do it on our own. We ought to be doing it, not
Not
the
the
TV
TV
Association. We can do it, and we will do it,
And we haven't done it.
and we haven't done
We
it.
had no means to do it at that time.
Well, just that one program we did co-sponsor in, along with the league and everybody else, over 400 people turned up for that thing, it was packed. Miss Pitt, you were there, that thing down at the Civic, absolutely packed, and I don't think that didn't really help KMA out a lot, It looked good for us, and
But you see,
they
we
didn't
would have
plan it
had,
by themselves, there were a bunch of us, they asked nurses, and all the nurses that they asked to help plan that program were members of KMA, District
Well,
One.
we could have
Every one of us.
selected the participation list.
participation list, topics, the whole
Presiding,
bit.
They want a
set the-
nursing advisory council, just like the National TV and RD Association has an NLN advisory committee. They wanted KNA to supply the people for that,
Well, why don't we, reevaluate and, our previous decision, and maybe take a second look at it in terms of, we don't have money to do it ourselves, and in view of the circumstances we stand now, maybe we ought to reassess our previous.
You think the TV Association has not looked for other people to spend
No,
their
I
money
think
by
Well, I'm
this time?
sure they have, but
No,
I
I
think
think
there are
they're
other
still
associations that are still, out there looking.
they're still interested because Debbie Applewhite told me that, and she said she was just gonna wait and see, but I'm sure she's still interested.
How did she perceive it? See, I just said that.
She told me that, she talked to you about it and that you told her that KMA was planning sort of a massive, like, continuing education program anyway, or, you were planning your own thing. And right now, I kind of got the impression that maybe just sit on it for a while, but I still think she's interested, or she could be interested. She's very open-minded about it. And we helped her out too, and then the last program, she had to go.
Still doesn't take care of anything if we simply have additional continuing education programs.
No, that's true.
But you're saying these were heavily attended when they were in
Well, our problem
collaboration.
right now is what we're gonna do with money
What
for the
we're
rest
gonna
of the
do
year,
now.
not next year.
Right.
Really, I hate to say this to you, but this board has to do something in some manner. Or we're going to find ourselves closing shop, period. You all may not think it's that serious, but believe me, it is that serious.
I know that you're able to offer points for their fall conventions, for certain programs in the fall convention, that the attendance will be far greater. And if the points are tied to membership,
Shall I read it, see if it's what we want to say?
picked up at that meeting will be far greater than if you don't.
Could we have this motion again?
Yes, let's see if this is what we're trying to say. I move that a committee be appointed immediately for the study and presentation of a plan for nursing education point system relating to licensure and to involve only the nurses who belong to KMA. What I'm trying to say here,
We can't do this related to licensure in the sense that you're saying.
well,
Looking toward.
For various forms of recognition and, you could say various forms of future recognition.
there anything you can say besides coins? To me, that seems like you're a policeman and you're trying to get coins. I don't, I just don't like the word coin.
But licensure is what we've been
Well,
saying.
the resolution will say that.
Okay.
Now,
So
that
we're
is
looking
in it,
toward-
and is there a second now?
I say, have your license revoked.
Yeah, but we can't, we
Well, that's the
No,
word,
I mean,
that's
like
the national word.
coins taken.
I think that'd be great.
You know, and as far as the immediate problem, could we ask, this sounds picayune, but, could we ask districts to carry on an extra activity in terms of raffle, or, I don't know how this will set.
Most districts are.
For the KMA
My
fund.
district, for their own fund.
No,
We've been doing it for our own. But you see, Louise, I don't know. It was tried for the building fund and we wouldn't have this big fat payments if even a third of the nurses in this state had responded to the building fund. The building would have been paid for in full. I don't know, but I don't know this would,
you don't think this would,
no, no.
that the merchants in the city, you know, would provide the gift for these units, okay, well,
Louise, I'll tell you, and it's,
Could we, could I see the motion then, and see how you have revised it and send
You
it?
can read it.
A committee be appointed immediately for the study and presentation of a plan for nursing education point system looking toward recognition and professional status and involve only the nurses who belong to KNA.
Maybe if that last part,
All right, now again, we said that if the nurses who participate in this, were not members of KNA, then we'd be in the same boat that we're in right now.
they can't, that's
That's
right.
You're right.
They've got to belong to our organization and be able to be
Okay. No, I
recognized.
think you know, the same.
Now, that may be
That's the best way
worded
to say
poorly,
it,
but this is what I'm trying to
But
say.
it's the intention is there. Now, are you ready for this question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign.
Could I make a comment there? I think KNA could do a tremendous service for the graduates of diploma programs in the state now, using this point system by approaching the universities to recognize nurses who are keeping up to date. For instance, at Eastern, we have a statute on credits of 5 years. So that if the course is over 5 years old, it has to be evaluated. Now, the way it reads in the book, it sounds like no credit if the course is over 5 years. But when you read very carefully between the lines, the university registrar
But she is coming. Those who will be absent with excuse, who have sent in such notices to the office, Marcia Day, Peggy Walters, Joe Jenkins, and Martha Kern. We have not heard contrary-wise to attendance from anyone else. Thank you, Marcia,
And Kathy?
and sister.
And sister. Kathy, the president of District 1. We have a digest of minutes of the last meeting. We don't have, I have one correction to make in these, minutes, if you all have helped them sent out. And that is, if, it reads that the, topic of the, Health Planning Council would be, forget what you said, but anyway, it isn't right. Whatever you said, I did not announce the topic of that meeting. I simply said that they would arrange a meeting with me, for me, with the chairman.
Now are we recording? The button is doing with me, and I am getting a recording. It oughtn't, I can turn it up, okay? All right, we're recording. We're recording.
But we don't hear the noise.
Okay.
Okay, right here now.
Okay.
Then all we have to do is push it.
For the purpose of providing the bylaws committee with your thinking concerning the possibilities of bylaw changes. The bylaws committee, and if you have your booklet reports, you might want to refresh yourself by looking in the book on page 8 and 9. You will recall at the last convention, 1970, that the association passed a resolution asking for an in-depth study of the present structure of the Kentucky Nurses Association, and that revisions be proposed for consideration. Bylaws Committee has addressed itself to had 4 meetings. Active bylaws committee, and we have established in trying to interpret what we think was behind the resolution. From our discussions, we came up with 3 primary goals that we were working toward in considering bylaws change. There may be others, and the intent of this meeting this afternoon is to give people an opportunity to voice their thinking, to raise questions, make comments, and give some guidance to the bylaws committee. There will be no changes proposed at this convention. The intent was that an in-depth study be done, and that there be opportunity for negotiation at this time, that people seem to be saying that we need to have optimum local involvement in decision-making at the state level, both at convention time and in between conventions. This would be one thing we work toward and consider bylaws revision. A second goal that we wanted to look for ways that the state association could foster and support local districts to the greatest extent possible. In other words, it seems that people feel that there is a gap between the state functioning and the local district functioning. And we wanted to look, as far as our structure is concerned, as to how we might make it possible for people at the local, for individual members, let me say it this way, to be able to influence decision-making at the state level, and then conversely, how the state association can give maximum support to the local districts. And then thirdly, it seemed that we need to be aware of looking for ways that the state association can have a maximum awareness of nursing needs in Kentucky. We have identified a number of questions, and what we'd like to do this afternoon is to take perhaps 10 minutes for each, to consider each question. And we are recording the session. We would like you to go to the microphone to make your comments so that we can get it recorded. we have a couple members of the bylaws committee. Virginia Harmeyer and Martha Lyon have been asked to jot down notes as we go along. So the committee will have your thinking for their next meeting, which is scheduled next month. April, did you want to say something?
Just that we can all hear you with your whole mic.
Are you having difficulties?
Yes.
Can you hear now?
Yes.
If there is a problem, please raise your hand. Well, one of the questions that we have identified then is what makeup of the board of directors would best serve nurses and nursing on the state level? Possibilities that we have considered in the committee are, of course, the present structure that we have with section representation. Another possibility would be that of having district presidents as members of the board of directors, or the possibility of an all-elected board, or there may be other possibilities. We'd like to have discussion of this. What is your thinking? What do you see as advantages or disadvantages of one versus the other? The whole question of structure, of course, is open at this point, whether there will be sections, which is another question which we'll be discussing a little further down the line. And so if not sections, then what? And I'd like to think.
Joyce Howard, Fourth District. My thinking on this, we have communication from state level to the districts, would be district presidents to be on the board. This way, then the districts will know what is going on at state level.
This is seen as one advantage of having district presidents would be better communication between the state and local level. There may be some problems created by such a structure, and someone may want to speak to that. I think what was just voiced was that it would be an advantage to have district presidents on the board of directors, that it would hopefully improve communication between the state and district level. Are there other advantages that you see to this? Are there any disadvantages that you see to this?
Mr. Patrick, we will speak, Mr. One. My thinking on this is, if our state association does dissolve sections on the state level, this would perhaps help out with our financial situation, budget-wise. But I do believe, and our section believes, that each occupational group should have a representation on the county board. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, in answer to your question on the advantages of having district presidents on
speak to this, either as what they would see as an advantage or disadvantage. We do now have 16 districts, and this would raise a question. I think there's been some discussion of this in the committee about the size of the board of directors. 16 districts, plus the officers of the association from the standpoint of size.
I'm really wanting from Virginia, I am halfway still in Virginia, I guess, tonight I am not week. But several years ago, I was a district president in a state where they had district presidents as board representatives, they were members of the board. They also, at the time I became district president, still had sections. And so they had both the sections and the presidents as members of the board, section attorneys. Okay, the question is finance, I'm sure. The question reminds a lot of people who are smart with money. It does cost more money initially, yes, to bring more people in to a meeting. But the result is that you've got more people involved in what's happening. And in this specific state, they got members that you wouldn't believe because there was local involvement, because people really got in there and got to help make the decisions. I think that's another thing. If the district president is a member of the board, not only does she know what is happening, she's part of what is happening. And the people that send her there can say, well, please, we'd like you to say this or do this, and it gets done.
I will throw out some questions that the committee has raised in their discussion, for you to think about and respond to. There is considerable difference in the size and the number of members in the districts. Does this make any difference to you with, say, District 1 with, I don't know how many members, 400 or 500 members, maybe more, has the same representation on the board as the new district, 16 with about 45 members? How do you feel about this?
Member of the board of directors, and I wish to speak to the president's team, have been invited to the board meetings. We wish more would attend. But I'm sorry to say that some haven't attended.
This is history, I believe, that district presidents have not always attended and they were invited to attend. Now, whether this would be different if they were an actual member of the board, I think this is something to consider. Another thought to consider in connection with that might be, is it more desirable to have geographic representation on the board versus an elected board on which people are nominated to serve who the members think would be their best representatives? And do members have a feeling about being able to elect their representatives to the board regardless of where they live? Like someone in Lexington want to have someone in Paducah representing her on the board and want a voice in that. Does
president, and I really can't speak for this, but the thing that occurs to me is that this would be a rather time-consuming thing if someone held both offices, district president and member of the board. And I wonder if this would be a deterring factor, and really would like to hear that point spoken to. Whenever it's election time, it's always difficult to getting people to allow their name to be put on the ballot. I think this is something that which we're hard to handle. So will this make it worse? What do you think?
Are there any district presidents or people who have served in the capacity of district president who would like to express an opinion about this going on? We will need to move on in our discussion. We have several other questions to be considered. Am I correct in my assessment that more from the hand clapping a while ago that more people here are favoring district president representation on the board of directors?
I've been in the minority before and I may be now. I simply would call to the attention of the group that, at least in my experience, the manner of, say, a district president being a member of the board is not in and of itself going to enhance and improve the communication. It is the individual, and it is the process of communication, but by virtue of any single individual from a district being a member of the board, I submit is not of necessity going to improve communication or involvement. And I think that needs to be kept in mind. The mention made of those who have been invited to board meetings who have not come. Now, the question is, well, are they part of the decision making? But how many presidents are here? There are 16 districts, I submit, who have elected an individual to lead their district in activity. Kathy's looking at me and saying, gee, I didn't stand up, but I am on. But where are the rest to speak to that point?
Mr. Jonathan Paducah, I think I would agree in part with what has just been said, that it may be or may not be a president. However, I think the idea behind the president as a representative is local representation. And perhaps if we spoke to the point of local representation, rather than calling that representative president, that may be the point of issue. Do we want local representation or do we want section representation? And my feeling would be that I would want local representation and then have, if the membership is voted for a president who represents and who actually is the leader, I think that would logically be a person. However, at the time of sending someone or, having the directors elected, we may wish to have another representative. But I think that could be a local decision at that point.
All right, let me just quickly get a reaction. Would your hand clapping be justified for local representation instead of necessarily saying district presidents? Is this another question considered by the committee is that of consumer membership on the board of directors versus advisory
service he is receiving. And so would invite your comments and thinking about whether this is desirable. If it is desirable, should this be as a voting member of the board or an advisory capacity to the board? Louise.
Commissioner District Two, I'd like to speak in favor of consumer representation on the board initially in an advisory capacity. And the reason for this is I believe it is a trend, and I believe the people we serve should have some voice in some of the decisions that affect the people across the state regarding these repair.
Sister, do you want to speak?
I just need clarification of the question.
Clarification of the question. Is it desirable to have consumer representation on the board? And if so, should that be representation with vote or in an advisory capacity?
I want to speak how you will get the consumer picked out. Probably along with that process. What things are this?
This would be mechanics to be worked out, certainly, but I think the mechanics would hinge on what the thinking of the association is as to the desirability of having such representation. I don't have any mechanics in mind, but unless some of the members of the committee want to speak to it, or anyone else.
Good to speak as a member of the committee. I think that we kind of thought about this being a problem, But my own feeling is the concept or the idea we're working at now that, like you said, mechanics would have to be worked out. I know that would be a problem. But this is something that I think is going to have to be worked out after we decide how we want a consumer to participate, whether we want a consumer to have a vote or whether we want a consumer just to advise us. And then mechanics of choosing. This time it's my understanding that you want to know how we would pick a consumer, but you're not concerned about whether that consumer votes or not. In other words, who the consumer is would determine whether we would want to have a vote or not. I think that could be really nasty, and so then that could be really hairy. So the question is really whether we, how we think it could work best, and then set up to develop the procedure for choosing the consumer, and certainly keep this in mind, whether this, she's going to be voting or he's going to be voting, and so, this would be part of the procedure that would have to be worked out.
I'm sure we're all aware of some groups that have consumer representation, and the consumer ends up being the physician's wife or someone in that field. One definition that I have heard out of consumer health service is someone who does not earn their living in the health field or any member of their immediate family.
Montana District 3, even though the current trend is to involve the consumer, just as we do not let non-members into our business sessions, so do I think we might be at a disadvantage to get someone uninvolved, uneducated, and uninformed at our board of directors meeting, with or without it. And I don't care who would be selected, I think perhaps to start at a lower level than immediately on the board of directors would be to our advantage, rather than having somebody come in and try to educate them from the ground up while we exchange and voice and verbalize and get hot like we do.
really undemocratic, because, like, you have good elections and you got the day off, you got a whole room of elections and people, you know, and you get a good voting, but if, you have to live way off the road or something, and you couldn't get here, it's just, your voice is lost. To me, you're not represented at all, that's who you take up there. Like I said, I don't understand this whole thing.
I think you're getting at the heart of the matter. Would people feel better represented if they elected a delegate to come to the annual convention to conduct the business? Or do they feel that this is something important to them, that they have a direct voice in voting as individuals? And then the question, what about the people who, for one reason or another, can't get to the annual meeting?
You said delegate, do you mean, say, one delegate per district?
One delegate for so many members, possibilities might be, what was considered. One for 10 members or one for 20 members for possibilities.
Well, in the TANS organization, they do have a policy whereby they have one voting delegate for each 10 members up to 50, and then one for our, somebody correct me, I'm suddenly on like, one for 10 up to 50, and how many of that means? Doesn't matter, but anyway, this way you get a little better balance sort of thing than you do with one vote or whatever. And with 20, you know, that would put District 14 would only have 2 delegates.
The mechanics of delegate election, does this pose any problem?
This afternoon, but I believe that we should all have a Harvard High School for Louisville. And I think each member should have a representative, should be able to vote instead of a delegate. You said the name, hold on, or moving back, but I do believe in representation.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying.
She's saying she's against delegate voting.
You're against delegate voting.
No, I'm not each member.
You have a right. Right. So she's against delegate. She's hard.
I think we should possibly be reminded that when people, states do have delegates to vote, on specific things, this does not mean members who are present and not delegates cannot speak to an issue. No, everybody has a voice that way. Plus, everybody gets to vote for the officers. And I think maybe, not that we agree with everything the federal government does, but we need to maybe think about how things are done there. There's a House and there's a Senate. The House has delegate representation, in essence. One person for every so many people. The Senate has, which goes back to the district president, which is local representation, has 2 people for each state. And Rhode Island and California are not the same size. So that, there may be a parallel here.
Are there any other reactions? As you know, they're now organized as occupational sections at the state level. We now have the freedom at the state and local level to organize as we choose to best meet the needs of the members. We do no longer have to have the same organization that AMA has. And so this is an open question for consideration. What do you see as being the kind of organization at the state level that would best meet the needs of the members?
I'd like to put, Lorraine from Murray, I'd like to put a plug in for conference groups or something along this line. Because I see professional organizations also being a source of growth, improvement, and education. We have done things in areas of establishing standards of practice and occupational kinds of things that we needed earlier. Now I'd like to see us go to something like a conference group where you can pursue an area of interest with people who are working in different fields or looking at it from different points of view. I think this would help all of us grow, but I think we need a change because you can only be involved in so many. I don't see how I can be involved in a section, in a conference group, in a district, and you need to cut down a few things, and I'd like to see us go to something like conferences.
Can you give some specific examples of what kinds of conferences you have in mind?
I think we should take a poll of the group as to what kinds of conferences people are interested in. So my interest is a subject area of intellectual health, but other people might prefer to congregate in areas of age or some of the other areas that you suggested. So I'm not really hung on a specific area, but I'd like to see us go, I'd like to get together with people who aren't teachers for change.
Thank you. Are there other thoughts?
We do not resection, restructure ourselves, we're not going to be.
Jean Hyder, District 2. It seems to me this is a good opportunity for us really to think about what grouping would be best for the membership. Because, as has been said, we don't need to follow the divisions at national level. We don't need to keep what we have. And so we can just think about what would best meet the needs of the members. Well, we have occupational groups at present, and people are saying all over the place that they would rather get together with people in different occupations. And in that way, teachers, nursing service personnel, public health personnel would meet together and would have programs together, would have discussions together, and so forth. But what should be the nature of those groups? There are many nurses who work in ICU units. There are many nurses who work in nursing homes. And it really seems logical to me that nurses who work in ICU units would have quite a bit in common, and it wouldn't matter particularly whether they take care of GU patients or whether they take care of neuro patients. Those medical specialties are more pertinent, it seems to me, to physicians than they are to nurses. I know the point has been mentioned that we need to have common understanding and discussion with physicians, but I really want to raise the question of whether that is more important or whether it's more important within the nursing organization for us to have an organizational framework which would facilitate our talking with each other and talking about things of mutual interest within the division.
I'd like to present, we had a prep session in discussing these issues, and I will say here what I said there. I would like to present the possibility of perhaps, focusing this on, focusing this on, a patient, method of organization or clinical methods, and as mentioned before, only the combination of an age continuum and, health illness continuum combined. And that would cover what Dr. Ryder just was saying, I believe, in organizing. Are there any other comments? Just as some indication of what you're thinking, that I hear a hand of those who favor the present section structure to be retained. Some clinical organization. And we've heard some discussion about possibilities of kinds of clinical organization. Does anyone want to move further in that direction at this point? Look at different possibilities. Yes.
Pardon all those to the lady. I'm sort of new at this game, and I've heard each section and everybody and organizations and what have you. But I have never heard outpatient. And it's big, and we're lost when we see patients. We do good work. And it's never, in any of the meetings I've been to, have I heard the word mentioned. And I have spent the past 20 years in it. Does anybody?
And are you saying you'd like to get together with
I
other nurses
honestly
who
need
are
to.
concerned
I
about
don't know if
patients?
anybody else feels like I do, but I feel like, pardon the expression, a bastard that drank with you.
May I speak a second time in the same question? This just causes me to want to say that I think that would be a very good idea, and that this would be a possibility in the same structure that I have referred to. It could be something like ambulance services. And so this sounds very logical to me, and I just wanted to support you.
Anyone else want to comment? Let's move on. Excuse me. The next question, what committee structure is needed? Do we need the committees we now have? Are others needed? Which should be standing and which ad hoc? And then we have some more instances there in the report. I think I'll stop at that point and see what your thinking is about committee structure.
District 13. I refer to page 9, 3B, under committee structure. I believe that, we have at present some 8 standing committees with some 10 additional committees that we had in 1970 to 71. And I also refer you to pages 5 and 13 in that report. I'd like to offer these comments. They're comments, they're really not suggestions. I would like to see the following committees retained: finance, legislation, professional practice, bylaws, nominating. And I would like to see a new committee, a new standing committee structured entitled K&A Advancement Committee, and include and are combined in this committee the following: membership and careers, committee on appointments to board of nursing, and I also see administrative advisory functions, economic security, and I would like to see public education in lieu of public relations. Also structure a new standing committee on continuing education. I believe there's probably one that's been appointed last year already, and they're on that. I also see the K&A Board of Directors take the leadership role in convention program planning with district president's participation. I also see and like to comment, suggest a wider geographic distribution be studied within a region with special interest groups organized within the region if desired, and that state sections be eliminated, which has just been discussed previously. The board representation be elected geographically, and district be a regional board representation. And Madam Chairman, while I'm up here, I would like to take this opportunity to announce that I would like to meet with the presidents of the following districts and members of these districts immediately following this meeting for the purpose of exploring an idea on districts 5, 13, 10, 7, and 8.
All right, Nadine has been giving some thought to committee structure. Are there other thoughts in relation to the committee structure?
That's the one that is two, membership chairman of the state and the district committee. I have seen no evidence that a state membership committee doesn't accomplish or could accomplish anything in its own right that would be in
We move on then to the last question, are there problems with geographic structure of districts that can be resolved by redistricting? And would say we recognize that this is something that does not have to go through the bylaws committee. There has been some discussion of it, but as you know, a district can be formed when a sufficient number of people want one and submit their request to the board of directors. So this is a board action, not a bylaws change, but it is something that is very much involved in structure. And so I think it's something that the members need to be thinking about at this time. We now have 16 districts. There are problems that are voiced as far as difficulties of travel and people getting together within districts. Some of the larger districts looking at the possibility of having subunits within a district. Some districts perhaps looking at regionalization, as Nadine was talking about a while ago. So while this is something that will not be written into bylaws, it is something of concern to the membership, and that's why we included it in the report. Have been discussing it and called to your attention. Other members from District 16, the newest district in KMA, would like to comment about why this district came into being.
Well, we Somerset was District 9, and geographically we were far away from the whole district. And to go home to our meetings, we had to be off from work at, say, 3, be ready to leave at 5 or 5:30, and maybe be home around 11:30. So we got together and decided that since we had new training students, new nursing students on the state, that we wanted to form our own district, and our girls had said that they were members, but they never got to go to the meetings because they were too far away. So we got together and decided that we would see about a new district. And we had Miss Wells came down, we had about 40 members present, and we got about 11 or 15 new members since we got our district. And we've had more interest shown in Somerset than we have ever before. We had meeting on abortion with one of our families and a minister and a lawyer. We had about 45 people there. We've had real good representation. And if you when you just have to leave home, say 10 minutes before the meeting, and you get home 10 minutes after, you find you have a lot of people come who are not going to travel 40, 50, 60 miles. We do. We have a real good representation and a lot of interest. And since we formed our new district, we had more people want to come to the convention this year than we ever had at Somerset. In fact, everyone who wanted to come couldn't come because somebody had to go to work. But almost every nurse in the hospital wanted to come part of the convention this year because they feel like that now they're part of the day.
Thank you. I guess that serves to underline the thought that there's nothing sacred about district boundaries, and people are free to organize locally the way that they choose to be, as I mentioned before, by getting together and presenting their wishes to the board of directors.
District at 7:30 here in this room this evening.
Continuing education, resource education. I'm really speaking for our coordinator, as well as an individual member of the RPC this year, at least explore to see which interests.
Could I ask Mrs. Turner a question? I'm sorry, you all, I don't really mean to do this, but it is certainly, I hope you all will know, that this is the way I make my living working with K&A. And administrative detail happens to be the work of the office, Mark Russell and I, along with advice from the president. So if I seem to have too much to say about administrative detail, that's the reason this is a part of my job.
Except that I can always say now we'll work it out.
I said that I didn't get good advice from the president. Sometimes, you know, I don't ask often, but sometimes too much, but we all do that. We all have bosses. She has one, but we don't. Maybe I was thinking, in-service continuing education. We do not have these people primarily identified as family members. Would it be your belief that one way to do a mailing in a call meeting would be to write to directors of nursing service and say, it has been suggested, candidates provided the opportunity, do you have such a person? If so, would you be willing to talk with her and encourage her to come to the meeting? Would you see this as a means to call such a meeting?
I think probably structural, that's about the only way you would get the information, if there's enough and so forth.
Right, for instance, in the nursing care facilities group, we did not restrict, I mean, we just got a list of everyone we could get to turn into us, what they were. We did not check KNA membership and so forth, but then to continue to participate, you see, then membership was a requirement. But they began their group with the largest number of them were not even members, but they came a couple of times and then did elect to join and restrict their group to members. And so we could even, for instance, in these people, we can find out who they are. Yes.
I just wanted to ask that when you write this letter to the hospital, to the directors, that maybe if you stated, something like, do you have nurses who are in nursing education or something of this nature, instead of just papers?
Do you have nursing service or continuing education?
Like that would be interested in this group, so that they would not think this is open for one person.
Yes. You're saying there may be more than one, right? Any one involved in, yes, I see what you're saying.
And secondly, I would like to say that I would be very interested in office nurses as a group, because I think there is much need for this. And I find a great deal of problem in trying to search out these people, talk to them, or anything, of any nature.
What day is it that most nurses who work in physicians' offices have their days off? Wednesday, Thursday?
Most of them, I think, close on Thursday afternoon. It's a general rule. We don't.
We have several nurses that are already, in the organization working in doctor's office.
At 65.
About 65, she says. And I can see where they have many problems that would not be faced by the general population.
we might put them up to convention. Or we might have, they might have a group meeting at that time. Like you're in. Very well be done. Anything else? Yes.
Well, you know, we were talking about the school nurses not being on, and I've heard this comment from so many people, and I can very well understand it, because if I wasn't, you know, a little bit pushy, I probably would agree.
We got pushy nurse.
More power to her. But on the other hand, I refuse to not do what I can to be a part of it. And isn't there some way that we can get through to the companies and doctors and various and sundry things of this nature that will not, don't feel the need for this, for their personnel? I mean, is there anything, there is? Well, that's what I'm
The nurses themselves have to believe it before they can sell anybody else.
Well, this is true, but how can we get to them?
Good question. I'd like for Eddie to tell you where the school nurses were as a surprise to us and a surprise for them not long ago. They were across the street at a swap meeting, they didn't know we were there, they didn't know what they.
Yes, they were, in Frankfurt. And they were in one room, disturbing us, and we were in the other room disturbing them, and we just tapped it on each other, you know, we had no idea this was a KNA group, and, they had no idea we were there, we had no idea we were there. They were having their meeting there.
School nurses yet.
School nurses.
They didn't know we were having a meeting, we didn't know they were having a meeting.
There were at least 50 of them there.
Is there, this is
They did show concern.
is there any groups that encourage people to come to these, meetings? I know it's a little late for this year, but it's just never announced at the hospital. If not, Russell, maybe she and I will put up a notice. But are the directors asked to, announce this or tell the girls that to get up? I looked all the hospital and came back.
Well, the districts are notified, the board members, of course, are notified, and press releases are sent out. It was supposed to be in the paper, you know, this type of thing. Are you saying that we need possibly, I think you're suggesting that we do send the, major facilities, the notice of the convention and so forth as we would in a press release. Is that what you're saying? Resume of what's occurring, when it's occurring, and so forth. Something for us to consider.
I mean, is this happening in all hospitals?
I don't know.
Go back to what Ms. Grant was saying today, and
But this is a two-way responsibility. You all remember a little trick of March later one time out at St. Joseph? This was amazing, this was membership push. And in one of the nurses' lounges, she took a brown envelope, and in it she had KNA application, and she said, free, take one. They went out like hotcakes. It's this kind of thing, the nurse herself has to assume responsibility along with her director. No one says that the director has to convert everyone, everyone could be converted by the director. They, you can convert your director. It's a two-way, I hate to see the director, the sole responsibility in this. I think the individual nurse also has a responsibility.
We're going to the money.
Now, the hospital administrator sent out
is was the district as a special interest group.
Well, of course, would you see your group, you're saying, in service? Would you see then another area in the broad continuing education? Or would you want to include, be included that you see it as all inclusive? All inclusive, that you would all be together, right, okay. Some people make a clear distinction. I think it's a part of and continuing education. I think they will decide that themselves.
That bylaw changes that could not function as a section. The chairman would have the board of directors. But for instance, the special interest group in nursing care facilities, the board agreed to invite that chairman to attend board meetings without a vote, just to be informed of this sort of thing. Without a bylaw structure, it could not be voting members of the board. But this would not preclude their participation. Not take place in sections of being added activity to members. Added activity to members.
Some of you back there are being very quiet. Are we just talking about all the groups that you're interested in? Or
Interested in the nursing care.
all right. Yes. Ma'am.
With the smaller groups we have here, in order to get something really started, now, Nadine brought up about the one group, and we have the office nurse, and you're gonna count the office nurse, and the school nurse. Now, here's, what, 3 or 4 identified groups. Now, if we wait for the hierarchy or the board of directors or something to start something, this is just like putting all the blame for everything on the director of nursing service. Whereas it's us, it's the individual that gets to get it started. So if you're interested in the nursing care, you've already got a place to go. But you're interested in starting something for the office nurses. So why don't we start getting 1 or 2 people who would be responsible, let's say, for the initial contact for those people we have on a roster, and let us start it, and then whatever we have to submit, excluding, functions or the section type of thing, and see where we go. Because I see everybody starting to get fuzzy here, and we're not gonna get any place except graphic. And, perhaps that you would, I'll work with you if you wanna do a mailing or something,
Perhaps you would like to know that I've already made phone calls to as many telephone personnel as I could find out of our PNA listing from Kentucky as to office nurses, and I got nothing.
Would you believe that the lower Cobble, if you all agree and the board says go, that she'll be asked to come in to help write the original letter and make the contract? We need 1 or 2 people from each group to come in to help coach and to set up meetings.
Well, see, this gets back to us, though, us as membership. How can we get them in? There's a handful of people that care, each of our groups that really care. And
this, trend in the delivery of healthcare, we're going to see more outpatient clinics associated with, hospital, with what we have traditionally seen, the hospital structure. So that, I think this is what most new constructions are including, and we're going to get more and more of these with the same needs. And it'll be a good time for you to start forming and adding to as we know it.
I was thinking those people the emergency, probably, that's the same thing.
Do you see yourself fitting in this group?
Yeah.
It probably is, you're right, you're right. There's no clear defined.
Margaret, would you be willing to now put your name down as a person to work to get this thing possibly started? Because there is a great potential here in this area. You know this as well.
You are interested, aren't you, Nita? Anita West from Owensboro, Davis County. For instance, the nursing care facilities group, they met the first time organizational wise. At that particular thing, they had specific objectives. Do we want to meet? Do we want to be called, do we want to have bylaws? How often do we want to meet? What do we want a program at each meeting? Where do we want to meet? This kind of thing, who do we want to include in the initial thinking? And this was a second meeting, their meeting monthly. I couldn't believe it, from statewide, and meeting monthly. And every month have a program meeting. And I mean a good program meeting, but the program is designed by express needs, you see, of the majority of the groups. So they have priorities and the express needs of the group. If it was a need of the majority of them, this program. And sometimes we help them get their speakers. Sometimes they do, and it's been sometimes in their own group that they've had valuable information to share as a program about.
At their first meeting, which was amazing thing to me, it was a real wonderful. And they spent about 2.5 or 3 hours. I thought they would narrow it down to the nitty-gritty of what is a special language skill, what can we get out of it, what effort do we have to put into it. They were so pleased to be a room full of them to talk. It was very valuable. They had simply never had the opportunity for a whole room full of them to sit and talk. And this was just something unbelievable.
And then the informal, this was terrific. They were sharing, what are you doing for this type of problem, and well, I know you tried this, and oh, this went like wildfire, and then there's somebody over here said, oh, now what was that? Repeat that, and this was just in the break, and then, so they just had so many things that they just couldn't hear it all, so we began to set up their programs. It's such a need to share and to learn. Well, I think we're on the right track. Let's try it and see. Let's try it. If you do know of other special groups that would like to try to get together, then do call the office and we'll just help in any way we can. Okay? What about
I would like to say that it's my understanding right now that we will make some attempt to set up a meeting for, continuing education in service using District Two officers as the, core of helping us to establish the contact and how we approach officers as usually public to start with, and I have put down Imogene Furman. And OPD, emergency room, Margaret Moore, Anita West, school nurses, and we will, name that, and we can, ask Bess to please name too. Is this what, I heard in this group?
if we miss anything? All right, and I just think we better get to work then, and I'll see you in the morning.
But the program is progressing as expected at this time. There's been one change on Celia Blanks. Those of you that have your programs with you, Celia Blanks was supposed to be the moderator for the reaction panel on Thursday afternoon, and of course she is out of town, and Martha Line will be the moderator for that reaction panel. And she will be having a meeting with the panel members 1st of October. And also on Wednesday evening, we have scheduled from 5 to 6:30 a meeting for the discussion of the bylaws. You recall at the last board meeting, it was felt that this should be discussed and no action at this time. So there will be a 5 to 6:30 meeting of the bylaws discussion, open, of course, to all members. And then from 7:30 to 9 on Wednesday evening, there is a meeting scheduled for special interest groups. And this came about with so many making comments and interest being shown as far as special interest groups was concerned. So Ms. Water did talk with Effie about this and decided to go ahead and have an open meeting that night for anyone who is interested in a special interest group. And this would take in, of course, your CCU, your everybody as far as special interest groups. And really, that's about all now, unless you have something to add to it.
At this special interest group, what we would hope to do is we'll have some overall information about what is possible, and then break up into special interest groups for some buzzing and see where we can go. And it will then take some board assistance that evening for those who could do it.
So you will be, we will be discussing later on, how many of you can be there, how we can break up the detail of it. We thought if there were a number of different interest groups there, then we could help them to in buzz sessions to see how did they want to go about meeting their needs or expressing their needs or with that.
We also thought this could maybe have some bylaw change implications on however this group may turn out in its attendance and interest showing and this sort of thing, or even the types of special interests that we might have.
Could be sent back to the bylaws committee and their work and their structure. This really would be the membership, you see, that would be there, the interested members that would be expressing their needs. Hopefully they will express them. Any comments on that? Now, are you going on, is there more?
No, it's on.
For public relations?
Okay, we go.
The committee has not had a formal meeting. The next meeting will be in September the 9th. And as a part of that meeting, they will, the letters have been written to the governor, Lieutenant Governor candidate, whom I have indicated to you. We hear increasing things about what's going to be introduced in Frankfort. And in addition to what we've already proposed as a legislative program, the committee will have some new considerations for your consideration.
at your 20 minutes leisure, to introduce yourself to the new definition of nursing that has been enacted in New York State. And it was in the last issue, the current issue of AJN, in a pretty good explanatory basis. And this may be something that will come back to you as an endorsement for emergency introduction. And I would ask you to get acquainted with that definition. It's pretty good, and certainly very foreign to our own definition, but in keeping with what nurses are presently doing and with the expanded role.
Professional practice.
Right, I'm ready today. The KNA Professional Practice Committee met on the 10th of this month, and Ms. Jean Colley called it to order. And they spent 3 hours, of this. Absolutely nothing was decided. And because Gaines, did you say? Okay, I had met Gaines before he had been there. Weekly was there. Cox was there. It took me a minute to remember them. But these gentlemen know what we wanted, how we wanted it, and the hedging that was done here. I summarized what I had to say by simply saying I'm glad they enjoyed dinner because it was the only productive thing that happened to me all day.
Well, I was totally disgusted when I had to leave at 1:30.
Well, but
they said, you know, they were going over the same things and going through the same line before as to what they had done, and we knew what they had done.
I have the statements in here, and they're going to take they said, well, now let's survey this, and what problems do you think we'll have? And we said none. And they spent 25 minutes discussing this anesthesia thing, which we, of course, had already adopted as our own. I care whether they do or not, in a way, you know. But they're going to take it to the anesthesiologist. They're going to take it to the surgeons. They're going to take it, then they're going to take the one on glaucoma to the ophthalmologist. They're going to take the one and they are. And they're going to have all this stuff written up. And I would assume that this is, of course, in an attempt to have it passed. But Dr. Dickinson, if I'm pronouncing or mispronouncing, this very, very, very nice old gentleman is so completely afraid of stepping on anybody's toes that I certainly don't think he would support any kind of a joint statement for anybody, unless it's in his area, which I assume, after listening to him, is merely general practice.
The anesthesia statement was written by the anesthesiologist in Louisville.
I mean, he was just old and out of it. He wasn't, how you say, you know, with these new kids. This gentleman, instead of approaching anything positively, Effie, didn't you get this impression? It was negative and defensive. And I don't want to hurt my colleagues' feelings by saying I, as a surgeon, you know, would say anything to do with public health or the anesthesia, or if they were talking about I wouldn't know what was what. And he did not want to pose the problem. I'll tell you how it got to the nitty-gritty. He didn't want to admittedly say that people still use ether or chloroform because somebody said, we're afraid if we let them change the ether, they'll kill somebody. And I thought, oh my God, I can't believe this. Why not upgrade the standard of practice and let people try to achieve it? Why, you know, remain quiescent and let it all hang, you know?
We should turn the recorder off. I'll give you my impression.
My report is without comment.
Oh, you couldn't.
You know, my report is without comment, but in all honesty, my own personal opinion is that perhaps there may be some salvation for these two committees. But I really don't see it, in all honesty, other than just an exchanging and somebody will take notes of potential problems. I really don't see any kind of what we have had in the past developing out of this. I see that everything will now take a year to 2 years.
The positive thing, though, it is conversation.
Granted.
Well, for instance, now, we found out through this meeting that they plan to open their practice law. When I mentioned the possibility we ought to be sharing legislative programs and discussing because of our interest in meeting the health needs of the people rather than what I want as an individual. And that nurses had always wanted this, and I'm sure they did too. They said, well, just confidentially, we are opening confidentially, we now are opening our act, or maybe you've already heard it by the grapevine. Then we got in, I said, well, if you're opening it for the purpose of, physician's assistants, we need to discuss together how far they're going to go and what they're going to do. And I asked them for the definition of the physician's assistant. They had no definition, they said, so we found this out. So, they now will get one, I'm sure, but they definitely said that, I said, well, are they going to, do you foresee them as giving, orders to anyone? Because we can't, who's going to take their orders? And, so forth. I said, you know, we have a Nurse Practice Act that may preclude this, and we ought to be discussing these things together. No, they haven't thought of that, but they definitely were going to give orders. They knew that already, that they were going to put it within their act, that they're going to give orders to someone, for medications and treatments. So that, now, you know, all right, now this is only June. We would not have known this until we got up there on the house. On the
Because they
floor.
weren't gonna share this with anyone.
If this meeting had not come about, so I don't say that, Pat, I don't feel the same way you do. I'll give them a lunch anytime if they'll share this type of information, even if it's a slip. You know, because they, it was obvious they had not planned to share this with us, but they did. You know, it came out, and then they're going to have to take a look at it. Now, they did not say they would share any further, but there is some hope as long as they make the effort to meet. But they
Scares me to
definitely,
death.
but we
No, they
can
don't
be
do it.
prepared now, even if they
Scares
do
me to
not keep
death.
us informed. We can be prepared, watching for it, have somebody there watching for it, and to defend the safety of the public.
This will be our defense.
We think that they will be writing orders, because, we do know that.
In our area, there's a group that's working very diligent now, and if they'll do it for, Kentucky or West, this guy mentioned in the, like me at work in the office, he's the head of a committee, and they think that they've already got it set up. You know, before when you talked to him, I explained to my husband, I said, I think what he's offering me is a type of physician assistant role. But since nobody ever got a definition, his job description sounds to me like it's way over my head, which is what I told him. But he said, well, don't worry about it now, we're gonna have everything cut and dry soon. It's very good, very good. But they'll think we're gonna swallow it as usual.
New York's definition of nursing would help us considerably in the face of this kind of law change, where we could expand the role of nursing. And I'm real interested in that definition that they have now on the books. They changed both the RN and the LPN definition.
We do have nursing diagnosis. But then, you know, the integral functions are out more clearly. Well,
They are ready to eat anytime.
I think it's a good
Ready for
stopping
us.
point. Pretty in general welfare, particularly, tonight, so to have that now, the report. And then the first thing in the morning, we'll hit the financial report. The first item on the agenda, if you all approve of this, we'll go back and pick it up. And then most of these others will not take a great deal of time. Now, the resolutions may take more time, but, this, I believe we can, cover all of it in the morning, including the financial statements. So we have the economic security and general welfare. I also would like to, after this, to just sort of, discuss the program, our program, where we're going, how the board feels about particular things and so forth, and activities that we're spending our time on, some of it spending our fields on. And I'd like for us to take some time tonight, before we all rush on to, sort of, I don't know, have a food session or something, but let's have economic security and general welfare
committee met on May Fortwanger and Elizabeth Proctor were the two nurses who were fired at Jewish Hospital, summarily and unfairly admitted by everybody concerned. These two nurses had consulted attorneys and stayed with an attorney until they exhausted what they could do in a work situation. At that time, K&A entered the picture, even though K&A had been available to the attorney before that time. There was a suit filed in their name, and the reason sanctions were not recommended by the committee at the time this happened was that there was no economic security effort by any group of staff nurses or by these two nurses, even as coming to K&A as their primary source of redress. And it was felt that even though the circumstances presented were grossly unfair, that there were circumstances not conducive to this association commencing sanctions on all physicians and nurses at Jewish Hospital. The one or two other things that happened in view of this situation, there was a resolution passed at the October convention whereby we publicly pronounced our support of any nurse or of all nurses having just and fair hearings in their place of employment. And we felt as if this were a support not only for these two nurses, but for any nurse who might find herself in the same kind of position. And so we do not believe, the committee does not believe, in view of the history of this event, that it is, at this time, it is their recommendation to you that sanctions not be placed. However, Ms. Fortwanger has had a letter to the effect that the absence of sanctions is no indication of our lack of interest and our support. And this is where the situation stands. When they went to public suit, they understood, like many of our other members, that K&A would not assume any financial responsibility, even though the outcome of their suit would have implications for all nurses not covered by contracts. So the recommendation on this is that, again, sanctions